Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the BakFlip MX4 hardtop tonneau cover on a Ram TRX. We're gonna not go through specific how-to installation instructions. The directions are actually laid out fairly well, but I'm gonna talk about some of the things that left my head scratching if I was doing it right when I installed it. So this might just give you a little insight on those little tips. And whether this is a TRX or a Ram 1500, I imagine either way this information will be useful. So let me show you what we ran into. So if you're not familiar with how these function, there's a little pull cord here. Open this. You do the same here, open that. And then you can do the same once again. And you can open this. It rests against the back. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then there are these rods here that you can adjust to hold it into position while you're traveling down the road. So the beauty of this cover is you pretty much have 99% of your whole bed to use without actually ever taking this off the truck. But let's talk about the couple things I ran into when we installed it. So the directions are pretty good. You can follow through. There's a few things it doesn't talk about in my opinion, and I'll walk you through that. There is a conversation about putting these spacers in here, which will help align this, this rail so it sits 90 degrees flush. On the Ram and the TRX or the 1500, I did not require any spacers, so there was no need for anything. The only thing you do is basically set this up, and you've got your 1, 2, 3 clamps here, and it clamps this to the bed, and then you repeat that on the other side. Really straightforward. You really can't screw it up. It fits in there perfectly. So you put those on each side. You have these drain tubes up in here, basically this corrugated plastic wire loom almost, and when the water comes in here, the idea is it drains down into between the bed and the body, and drains out into the ground. So I've noticed in the very heavy rain, this has been bone dry. Here's where I've got it mounted. This is already bolted down, so normally this will fold up, but there is a rubber or a weather stripping style seal underneath here. When you go to install that weather stripping, you're going to want to put it on this edge, the closer to the back edge of the bed. When I originally installed it, I put it on the leading edge closer to the cab, and it didn't work well. So when you install that weather stripping seal, literally run it along the inside back edge on the bed side of it for that seal. And then here, when you install these bolts, I'll call them, there was no mention of a rubber seal or gasket underneath this bolt in the directions. And when I was done, I had 2 left over. I'm honestly not sure that's exactly where they're supposed to go, but I feel like it seals up that void. If you did have water sitting in there, that rubber seal is going to take care of that. So those 2 things were not obvious. The other thing I should mention is normally when you get this from factory, there are rubber bumpers here on this side and that side. And what they are for is when this comes up and you lean it against the window, the cover will sit on these rubber bumpers. Mine fell off in shipping, and I kind of read it's a common problem. So I'm just gonna get some 3M double like molding adhesive, and I'm gonna reattach those, but I've not put them on yet. But if you have 2 heavy rubber bumpers, one goes right here and on the other side. You've got 1, 2, 3. These aren't nearly as heavy as the previous rubber I talked about, but what that does is when you go to put this forward against your body, that protects this from hitting the bed. So that is what you want to make sure when you put these on, that it protects or it's hitting the points where it makes contact with the bed. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is alignment on how far forward or back you should have this within the truck. So we'll talk about the one last thing. Overall, this is a really impressive top and worth the money. Once you get this attached, I'd recommend putting your clamps on the front, but leaving them loose to where you can still slide this whole cover forward and back. When you come to the back, you're gonna want it to hang over this lip just a little bit. Otherwise, I noticed I was getting water in here. So if you come back here, when you open this gate, you can look. It might be hard to capture this on camera. You can kind of see here where the dirt has been riding, but it overlaps this tailgate plastic just ever so slightly. So when you close it, let me open this and see if I can show you. There's a seal here, right? And there's this little rubber lip. So you want this seal to kind of come over on top of this bed just a little bit. But the trick is, if you come too far back, you're gonna lose the seal up front. Remember the seal I talked about, the weather stripping. So it's kind of, you gotta split that. You were talking fractions of an inch. But what I did is I kept it loose, and I latched this down, and I closed the bed, and what I did is I kind of pulled it back until it was even on both sides, and I felt like it was making a nice seal. I double checked up front, we still fell under that weather strip, and it works great. And I will say overall, we've had some really heavy rains, and it is definitely dry inside. BakFlip MX4, it's bakindustries.com. My previous trucks, I had the canvas cover or even the twill cover, and in heavy rains and snows, it would just build up on there and even create puddles. This so far been really happy with, and I love how you can flip it up and you can get access to the whole bed. Thanks for watching. Give us a like, please subscribe, and we'll see you on the road.